What if saying goodbye doesn't mean the end, but the beginning of everything you were never ready to feel? Because sometimes love doesn't arrive with ease. It arrives in silence, in hesitation, in moments where you are already losing something before you even realize you have found it. The house feels different today, not because anything has changed yet, but because everything is about to. There is a strange weight in the air, like every corner is holding onto memories a little tighter than before, as if it knows they are being taken away one by one. Boxes stand half open, empty spaces slowly forming where life once lived so freely. Nothing is loud, but everything feels like it is breaking in silence. Mary moves through the room without speaking much, her hands folding clothes she has folded 100 times before. Yet today, each fold feels heavier. Every fabric carries a memory. Every object feels like it remembers more than she wants to admit. She pauses often, not because she is unsure of what to pack, but because she is afraid of what it means to let it go. It is not just belongings being placed into boxes, it is time itself being sealed away. And somewhere in the distance, Tom watches without interrupting. He does not ask many questions because some answers are already written in the way she avoids his eyes. There is something unspoken between them now, something neither of them is brave enough to name. Because naming it would make it real. And making it real would mean accepting that this moment is not temporary, it is final in ways neither of them are prepared for. Mary finally speaks, but her voice is quieter than usual, almost as if she is speaking to the room rather than to him. She says that she never imagined goodbyes would feel like this. Not dramatic, not loud, but slow and unbearable in the smallest ways, like watching a candle burn down without being able to stop it. She says it feels strange how a place can still look the same, yet feel completely different the moment you decide you will no longer belong to it. Tom doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he looks at the boxes again, at the way everything they once called home is being reduced to what can be carried and what must be left behind. He thinks about how easily life can shrink into containers, how everything meaningful can suddenly become something you have to decide to keep or abandon. And yet, nothing about feelings works that way. Feelings do not fit into boxes. They spill, they resist, they stay behind even when everything else is gone. Mary tries to smile once, but it does not last. She admits that she keeps thinking she has more time than this, that somehow there would be a later moment, a slower goodbye, a softer ending. But life does not always wait for readiness. It simply arrives, collects everything in its path, and asks you to keep moving even when your heart is still standing in the same place. Tom finally steps closer, but not too close, as if distance itself is the only thing keeping them steady. He tells her that leaving a place does not mean losing what happened in it, that nothing they have lived here will disappear just because the walls are being left behind. But even as he says it, there is something in his voice that sounds like he is trying to convince himself more than her. Mary looks at him then, properly this time, and for a moment, everything else disappears. The boxes, the room, the leaving, it is just the two of them standing in something that feels too big to survive quietly. She asks him almost without sound how people are supposed to leave behind something that still feels like home when they close their eyes. And Tom realizes there is no answer that will make this easier, because some goodbyes are not solved with words, they are only endured. The silence between them grows heavier, not empty, but full of everything they are not saying. And in that silence, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. This is not just about packing away a house, it is about packing away a life that was never finished. And just as Mary reaches for another box, her hand pauses because outside the window something changes that neither of them expected to see. What if this goodbye is not the ending they both think it is, but something far more devastating waiting to begin? The moment outside the window changes everything without warning, as if the world itself has decided to interrupt what neither of them can properly face. Mary's hand stays frozen above the box, not touching it, not moving away from it either. It is a small pause, but it feels like time itself has stopped inside it. Tom notices the shift in her expression before he even looks outside, because sometimes emotions speak louder than sight. When he finally turns, he sees nothing dramatic at first, just ordinary movement beyond the glass, life continuing as it always does. but to them, it no longer feels ordinary. Because once you are in the middle of leaving, even the smallest detail outside becomes a reminder that the world does not pause for your heartbreak. It keeps moving, quietly and without permission. Mary lowers her hand slowly, as if she is afraid that touching anything now might make the moment real in a way she cannot reverse. She says nothing for a long time, and when she finally speaks, her voice carries something fragile beneath it. She admits that she keeps expecting the house to feel like it belongs to her a little longer, but instead it feels like it is already learning how to forget her. Tom hears her carefully, as though every word is something he needs to hold without breaking. He tells her that places do not forget people easily, that walls hold onto laughter, corners remember footsteps, and rooms carry echoes long after voices are gone. But even as he speaks, there is a quiet sadness in his certainty, because he knows that memory is not the same as presence. Mary walks a few steps without direction, stopping near a shelf she has passed countless times before. She runs her fingers lightly across its surface, as if trying to understand how something so familiar can already feel distant. She says that packing is not just about removing things, it is about deciding which parts of yourself you are willing to carry forward and which parts you are forced to leave behind. Tom watches her carefully, noticing how she hesitates with each object, as if every item is asking her a question she does not want to answer. He realizes then that leaving a place is never only physical, it is emotional negotiation. It is choosing what version of yourself survives the move and what version quietly disappears without ceremony. Mary suddenly stops again, this time holding something small in her hands. She does not say what it is, but she doesn't need to. The way she looks at it tells enough. It is not the object itself that matters, it is what it represents. A moment, a memory, a version of time when things felt simpler, even if they were not. Tom steps closer this time, finally breaking the distance that has been silently protecting both of them. He tells her that she does not have to carry everything, that some things are meant to be remembered, not kept. But his words feel incomplete the moment they leave his mouth, because even he knows that letting go is easier said than lived. Mary shakes her head slightly, not in disagreement, but in exhaustion. She says that people always talk about moving forward like it is a straight path, but no one mentions how often you look back while pretending not to, how every step forward still carries the weight of what you left behind. The room feels smaller now, not physically but emotionally, as if every memory has started pressing inward, making it harder to breathe without remembering something. Tom looks at her and realizes that this goodbye is not just about departure. It is about identity shifting under pressure. And then Mary asks something quietly, almost as if she is afraid of the answer she already suspects. She asks him if he ever feels like some places are not meant to be left, only paused, like a story that should continue but never does. Tom does not answer immediately, because deep down he knows the truth is more complicated than comfort. Some places are not meant to be stayed in, and some feelings are not meant to be left behind. And just as he opens his mouth to speak, something unexpected interrupts the fragile silence between them again, something that makes both of them realize this goodbye might not be as simple as packing boxes and walking away. But what if the hardest thing they are packing away is not the house, but each other? The question Mary asks still hangs in the air, heavier now, as if it has found a place to stay and refuses to leave. Tom does not look away from her this time. He cannot. Because something in her voice has changed. It is no longer just about the house or the move or the boxes. It is about something far more dangerous, attachment. Mary finally sits down near one of the half-packed boxes, not because she is tired of working, but because she is tired of holding everything inside her. She admits, in a voice barely steady, that she thought leaving would feel clean, final, organized, like closing a book at the right page. But instead, it feels like tearing pages out while still reading them. Tom listens without interrupting, and for the first time, he stops trying to fix what she is saying, he just understands it. because he feels it too. The discomfort of unfinished emotions. The strange pull of memories that refuse to stay in the past even when everything physical is being removed. Mary says she keeps thinking about small things. Not the big goodbyes, not the dramatic moments, but the small ones. The way light used to fall through a certain window in the morning. The way silence used to feel less heavy when someone else was in the room. The way ordinary days used to feel like they would never end, until suddenly they did. Tom looks down for a moment, as if those words have landed somewhere deep. He admits quietly that he has been thinking the same way, that sometimes the smallest memories are the ones that hurt the most because they do not feel like memories at all. They feel like something that should still be happening. Mary exhales slowly, as though she has been holding her breath for longer than she realized. She says that what scares her most is not leaving the house, but realizing how quickly a life can become something you are already saying goodbye to before you are ready. Like it begins ending long before you notice it is over. Tom moves closer again, but this time there is no hesitation in it. He tells her that maybe that is what makes it real. That nothing meaningful ever ends neatly. That the things worth remembering always resist closure. And maybe that is why it hurts, because it mattered. Mary looks at him when he says that, and for a moment there is something unspoken passing between them again. Not romance, not yet, but recognition. The kind that makes distance feel smaller and silence feel louder. She asks him softly if he ever wonders whether leaving something means you stop belonging to it, or if it simply starts belonging to you in a different way. Tom does not answer right away because the question feels too honest to rush. Instead, he looks around the room slowly, as if seeing it properly for the first time, not as a place to leave, but as a place that has already become part of them. He realizes that packing is not just removal, it is translation, turning a life into something that can be carried forward without falling apart. Mary stands again, but more slowly this time, as if every movement requires permission from her emotions. She places another item into a box, but her hands linger longer than necessary, as if letting go physically is easier than letting go emotionally. Tom finally speaks again, his voice quieter now. He tells her that maybe goodbye was never meant to feel complete, that maybe it is supposed to feel like something is missing, because something is, and that missing piece is not the place or the objects, but the moments that cannot be repeated. Mary nods slightly, but her eyes do not fully agree, because deep down she knows something neither of them is saying out loud, that some goodbyes are not about what is being left behind, but about who you become after leaving it. And then, as another box is sealed shut, a sound interrupts them from somewhere deeper in the house. Something unexpected, something that does not belong to packing or memory or silence, and in that moment, everything they thought they were finishing begins to feel like it is only the beginning of something far more uncertain. What was that sound, and why does it feel like it changes everything again? The sound does not repeat, but it does not need to. Once is enough to change the atmosphere completely. Both Mary and Tom go still, as if the house itself has just spoken, and neither of them is sure whether to trust it. The silence that follows feels different now, not peaceful, but alert, like something hidden has just made itself known. Mary turns slightly toward the direction of the sound, her movement slower than before, as if she is afraid that moving too quickly might make the moment worse. Tom follows her gaze without speaking. For a few seconds, neither of them moves forward because sometimes uncertainty feels safer than discovery. Mary finally whispers that the house has been quiet for so long that any sound feels unnatural now. Not frightening exactly, but unfamiliar. Like hearing a voice from a place you thought was already empty. Tom agrees quietly, but his eyes remain fixed, trying to understand what they just heard. He suggests it could be something simple, a shifting box, an old structure settling, a sound that belongs to memory, not mystery. But even as he says it, there is a doubt in his voice that neither of them ignores, because deep down they both know that goodbyes have a way of making everything feel more meaningful than it should. Mary takes a slow step forward, then another. Not rushing, not retreating, just moving carefully through a space that suddenly feels unfamiliar again. Tom stays close behind her, not to lead, but to steady. There is a quiet understanding between them now. Whatever this moment is, they will face it together, even if neither of them knows what it is. As they approach the source of the sound, the air feels heavier, not because anything has changed visually, but because expectation has grown louder than silence. Mary admits under her breath that she thought she was already done feeling surprised by this place, that everything meaningful had already been packed away. But now she is not so sure. Tom tells her softly that endings often pretend to be complete before they actually are. That sometimes life leaves one final detail behind just to remind you it was never fully in your control. Mary does not respond, but her expression tightens slightly because the truth in his words is hard to ignore. They reach the area where the sound came from. Nothing obvious stands out. No movement, no clear explanation, just ordinary space that suddenly feels charged with meaning. Mary exhales slowly, almost laughing at the irony of it, how the mind can turn emptiness into possibility when it is already full of emotion. Tom notices something small that Mary almost misses. A slight shift, a detail out of place, not dramatic but enough to make him pause. He reaches toward it carefully, as if even certainty might break the moment if handled too quickly. Mary watches him, her heart unsure whether it is bracing for disappointment or revelation, because at this point she no longer knows which one would feel heavier. And when Tom finally reacts, not with words, but with a stillness that says everything, Mary understands that whatever they came here to pack away may not be what is actually waiting to be left behind. Because some things do not stay hidden forever. Some things wait until you are already saying goodbye. And just as they begin to understand what they have found, Tom realizes something that makes him stop completely, something that turns this farewell into a question neither of them is prepared to answer. What if they were never really alone in this goodbye?